back like we never left. It's Double Move Sports. I'm Stef Albiero. Wanted to drop a take today, guys, on Trey Sermon. It's a polarizing name in these rookie drafts that are going on right now. Real quick, before we get into some of these takes and some of these projections and talking about the 49ers landing spot, join our Discord channel. We got leagues starting up in there. If you want to join some dynasty startups, we got guys in there posting their draft selection, saying, hey, help me out here. Who should I take at this pick? Who do I need to trade? Do I trade up? Do I trade down? All of it. A whole community of folks, hardcore dynasty players down in that Discord. Again, in the link down below. But back to Trey Sermon. He lands in San Francisco at the 324, back of the third round in this draft. Running backs drafted in the top 3 rounds are interesting because after round 3, there's a pretty big drop-off on hit rates for fantasy historically. I've seen Sermon going late first in super flex drafts. And at that point, I'd rather trade up for Javonte Williams or Travis Etienne. I'm having a hard time getting that excited for Trey Sermon. But after the top wide receivers are gone, obviously Chase, Smitty, then you got Waddle, the Moores, Terrace Marshall. But that early to mid-second, especially if I'm an RB-needy roster, when I'm looking at my dynasty lineup, I'm going Sermon. It doesn't help that Trey Sermon struggled to earn playing time throughout his college career, either due to losing to competition for carries against Ramondre Stevenson, Kennedy Brooks, Master Teague, or missing time for injury. But Sermon is a super fun prospect. He had some flashes. He had some monster games against some high-end defenses in college. He's a running back with some real juice as a rusher on the ground. He can create breakaway runs. He can break tackles. He can take dump-off passes out of the backfield. He profiles as a 3-down workhorse running back. And if he landed in New York with the Jets like Michael Carter, I'd be in love with Trey Sermon for his rookie year. But he's more than likely going to split time with a lot of running backs and an offense that may go through some growing pains with an unproven rookie quarterback. But after this year, after 2021, there is an irresistible upside waiting for Trey Sermon. We know San Francisco, and more specifically Kyle Shanahan, has always produced efficient running backs with his zone running scheme. He's recently had a ton of running backs that we'll get to in a moment, but back with the Atlanta Falcons, he had Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman, both as fantasy producers. If you look back a bit further, the last time Shanahan had a true 80% plus opportunity share workhorse back was when he was with the Washington football team, or the Washington Redskins at the time, in 2012 through 2014. And that running back that he had was Alfred Morris, a guy who was a 6th-round pick, didn't profile as anything crazy coming into the league, was a 4-year player, high-end producer at a very small school, Florida Atlantic. But Alfred Morris, with the Washington football team in 2012, had 1,600 rushing yards as a rookie, 300 carries. That was over 100 yards per game. And in 2013 and 2014, was over 1,000 rushing yards both years, over 265 carries both years, saw 7 or more TDs in all of those seasons. And you know who his quarterback was? A mobile quarterback, just like Trey Lance. It was Robert Griffin III. It was RG3 back in Washington, helping Alfred Morris go absolutely nuts for fantasy. If Trey Lance hits, and by happenstance, this is Trey Sermon's backfield in 2022, it's going to be wheels up for Sermon. The two Treys, Lance and Sermon, in that backfield, torching the league on the ground. It's going to be fun to watch if it plays out this way. But in 2021, Sermon's going to have some competition. He has Raheem Mostert, who last year was their RB1, but he's 29 years old in a contract year, and he's had a pretty prolific injury history. We have Jeff Wilson, an undrafted free agent, who was seeing 11 carries and 2.5 targets per game last year. He's also in a contract year, even though he was productive at times throughout the 2020 season. They brought in Wayne Gallman on a 1-year, $1 million deal. And we have JaMychal Hasty, another undrafted free agent in a contract year. So after Trey Sermon's rookie year, there is a non-zero chance it's his backfield. Except for the fact that there's a fullback, Kyle Juszczyk, on a big boy contract. He's going to see a few carries, 20 to 40 targets a year. And another running back, a guy we like a lot on this show, Elijah Mitchell. And I've been scooping him up in the mid-third round in all my rookie drafts. Elijah Mitchell was a running back taken in the 6th round. He's 5'10", 200 pounds, small school guy from Louisiana Lafayette, who was also splitting time with other backs in college, but was a hyper-efficient rusher, above average as a pass catcher, had phenomenal athleticism metrics, a 4.40 combine-adjusted 40 time, courtesy of playerprofiler.com. He was a beast on the broad jump and the vertical, jumped out of the gym, and a player that a lot of us liked coming into this draft if he got the capital. So it's very likely we could also see a two-way split in this backfield between Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell. Now, we know the draft capital tells a story, with Sermon going in the 3rd, Mitchell going in the 6th. Draft capital matters a lot. It correlates very strong when we're comparing that to running back producers. But what if Elijah Mitchell, who's this more explosive, more dynamic, just as good in the passing game weapon as Trey Sermon, what if Mitchell starts to produce with big plays, with his speed in the zone run block scheme? What if Elijah Mitchell comes out as the RB1 on this team in 2022? I think there's a chance that that happens as well. But for both guys, Trey Sermon and Elijah Mitchell, the upside is huge compared to where they are now in 2021. As a dynasty player that's always looking for values in rookie drafts and in startups, I like Mitchell more at his ADP in the mid-3rd round than I like Sermon in the early to mid-2nd round. But both of these guys have a extremely appealing upside a year from now. There's another possibility that San Francisco brings in more free agents, drafts another running back next year in the draft, signs some guys off the street. Obviously, Shanny has a penchant for undrafted free agent running backs, but as it stands right now, for what we can project, what we can look at historically, this could easily be either a split two-headed monster with Sermon and Mitchell in 2022, or one guy could outproduce the other and be the clear RB1 in this backfield. How likely any of those scenarios are to play out, who knows? I don't think any amount of analysis right now is going to point us in the right direction. And that's for every dynasty manager to decide based on their roster and their risk tolerance. But both of these guys are really exciting running backs and potentially a great situation a year from now. If we start to see flashes, I'd go and make a move. If we start to see one of these guys produce, even if it's on limited volume, let's say 8 carries for Elijah Mitchell, but they're efficient, he's making some splash plays, I'd try to go buy him and then enjoy the ride up. And same thing for Trey Sermon.